Hi, welcome. I'm Jenny. I'm one half of JennSquarred, and we are hobby authors. Today, I wanted to discuss some lessons that I'm learning from Authortubers by avoiding their educational content. These are lessons that they are sharing candidly that I feel have a lot of value. My intention is to take these hard lessons and carry them with me as I embark on my own journey as a hobby author and attempt to develop and hone the skill of storytelling. These are moments that felt like genuine learning experiences, and in my head, somehow this is more valuable than them being educational gurus in some cases or trying to tell you the do's and don'ts. Sometimes the best lessons are the ones that nobody is intending to teach. So let's get started. I'm going to leave in the description box the specific YouTube videos if there is one where I saw these lessons, but in some cases it's just the YouTuber's channel in general. Number 1, Christy Ann Jones. So Christy's coming out with her debut novel, in case somehow you're figuring this out from watching me for the first time. She chose to go through the traditional publishing route. She's explained why. She's also explained how long it actually took her to take this novel from beginning through the publishing process, through the rejections and the editing process and what it's been like, and explicitly shared how long it took. So the lesson here that I'm taking with me is the true length of completing a project to this level, regardless of traditional or indie publishing, with a 9 to 5. Because she has a 9 to 5. I'm pretty sure she still has a 9 to 5. Personally, I'm a blind optimist. I keep thinking through my process like, oh, I'll just copy and paste my scene cards into my manuscript and then everything will be done. Just whenever I pick up a new phase of the writing process, I keep thinking, I'm basically there. I'm basically done. And instead, I think I need to swap my perspective on this and just enjoy the time that it takes, enjoy the moments that I have to explore and dive into each part of the process instead of constantly thinking, oh, I'm almost done. Oh, I'm basically done. Oh, I just need to do one more thing and then I'm done. I don't think that that perspective is showing a lot of gratitude for the hobby itself, but also the fact that I can dedicate time to doing these hobbies. I would rather deeply enjoy the process and take my time, but also take care in sharing that process instead of taking the route of like pressuring myself and feeling like things need to be completed in order to share. Rather, I'd think sharing the small things that I'm working on rather than being, oh, I'd finished this, I finished that. One of those might get more clicks, but I think what Christy does so well is she shares the happy moments of writing and she shares a more realistic kind of view of what it's like to be a writer. So that's the lesson I want to take with me. Obviously, with a project or a hobby such as writing, your dream is to be the next S.J. Maas or to be the next Rebecca Yarros and have extreme, maddening success. But I think the reality is that they are extreme outliers, and they're also professional authors who have a huge collection of works, and this is my hobby. The ultimate goal of my journey is to enjoy it, to come out the other end not only with a project that I'm satisfied with and proud of, but with more experience in the hobby to be able to enjoy it more as I continue through my projects over time, which is a skill that's not necessary for my career. I mean, it couldn't hurt, but it's something that I choose to dedicate my free time to just because of the passion that I feel for it. And I think that's something that Christy really shares, is her enjoyment for research and how deeply she gets involved in her novels. So yes, the genuine how long it takes time dedicated to completing a project such as the one that I'm working on, such as the one that Christy is now publishing. The next hobby author, nope, the next Authortuber that I wanted to carry a lesson from was Lynn D. Jung. So I actually have two from Lynn, one of which being that we're capable of picking up any writing project that we have put down and we can work on it at any time, which gives me hope that even if one day I kind of drift away from this project and pick up something else, I can always come back to it. This project being Project Elixir, which I'm currently working on. It is a romantic fantasy, potentially a trilogy, most likely a trilogy. and I'm working on the first draft of the first book, as I have been for a very long time. It also gives me hope that if Project Elixir doesn't end up being my debut novel for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that I can't ever go back to it and I can't ever shape it into something that I'm more proud of in the future. Basically, I watched a video where Lynn picked up a project that she had been working on years prior and then was kind of revisiting it and looking at the weak points and finding the small sections of the religion and the world building that she thought that she could improve upon. And honestly, giving yourself a break alone from your writing project is a good enough message, but I think the better message, or the more exciting message, is that there is no dead project. You can pick anything up at any time. Secondly, she recently shared her experience with editors. She explained how she had to find somebody that matched her style but also vibed with her well, which I never considered actually, because personally, when it comes to anybody in an authoritative position, I basically just bow at their feet and think, yeah, you're right, because you have more experience or you are of this role and that's what's expected of you, is to cut things up, fix them up, make them nice, and I'm supposed to just say yes, yes, yes. I am so far from having an editor. However, she just reinforces that no is a full sentence, which I really like. And as the author, we have the identity of the book within us. We can deny something that an editor suggests if it doesn't fit the soul of the book. I think that's a fantastic message. In any case, it just kind of opens up the discussion for creative control and how to maintain a comfortable level of that and how to let go some but maintain most, I think. So that's definitely a lesson I'll need later on in my writing journey, but as of right now, I just think it's like something nice to have in the back of my mind, and maybe this video itself will remind me. We're moving on to a very well-known writing guru, Abbie Emmons. Somebody that I've sung the praises for on this channel multiple times. She teaches a lot and very passionately so, but she shared her experience pretty recently in a more candid kind of setting. Hi, sorry, editing Jenny here. I was just looking up the videos that I was talking about in this video, and if you look at Abbie Emmons, there's really nothing that's candid. It's all educational, but the way that I remembered watching this video, it sounded casual because she's mentioning her own process and what she's going through. Not going to take it out of this video, still going to include it. It is educational, less casual, which was like the whole point of this video, but I'm not going to take it out because I still think it's a good message. Cool? Cool? Same page? Same page? Okay. Okay, bye. Okay, bye. Where she says that she started to plan her novels in chunks, essentially, so that she can allow inspiration to come through and shape the future of the novel while she's in the earlier stages of writing, rather than laying out the plan for the entire novel and having to change things as she goes or feel boxed in by the plan that she had set out. Ultimately, this leads for a more efficient way to plan and write a novel, because if you think about it, there's less editing, there's less kind of cage moments where you feel trapped and you don't actually want to write what you're writing. You can avoid that by just leaving things open-ended and allowing yourself an idea of where you want to go, but not setting it in stone through scene cards and a whole bunch of effort into the 3-act story structure, etc., etc. This is a lesson that I think is really valuable for beginner writers, myself included. And truly, this one is kind of cheating, because I did also come to this conclusion before I saw that Abbie came to this conclusion, but that was not because I had planned an entire novel in scene cards prior to writing manuscript, but because I had run out of time before NaNoWriMo and I had only completed so many scene cards, and I really wanted to write manuscript during NaNoWriMo. So what ended up happening was I did this, and it did shape the novel in the future. There are still things that I have plopped in post in my manuscript after making scene cards that I just didn't use. I am guilty of that. So as we develop the process, we're hopefully going to stray away from that and take on Abbie's kind of chunk method, let's call it, more seriously. So I'm carrying this shared experience with me as we're developing and growing and learning about our processes, and hopefully for the second book of Project Elixir, I'll kind of hold those tightly and let them guide me a little bit stronger. Okay, we're on to the next. Brielle Writes. Love. Big love. Brielle quite recently had a major video come out. Pretty big crash out, if we're being honest. I'm pretty sure she uses that in the title. I'm not saying. Anyway. There's only love here. And she basically shared her experience of having to blow up her whole novel because she shared her plot and explained situations to a trusted friend who was also a writer who might have some valuable feedback. And personally, I don't know about you, but I'm always able to give advice to my friends regardless of if I'm able to follow my own advice. I think that's part of the human experience. So why wouldn't that be the case with writing too? Everything is easier said than done. Ultimately, she opens up about having had a trusted friend whose opinion she valued, gave her feedback, and now she feels, or she felt, that in order to strengthen her book significantly, there were some major changes that needed to be happened prior to beta readers, which was what she was prepping for. Now, thankfully, Jenn and I have each other, and there are so many things that we have shared with each other, and we've used each other as a sounding board. However, there's this kind of unspoken rule between us not to touch upon the big things of our novels, like the internal conflict of our characters and what decisions they're making to drive the plot forward, which is essentially the place that we would hope to find the most strength in our books. So I want to take this lesson with me from Brielle to be brave, trust that Jenn has my best interests at heart and has the best interest for my novel at heart, and not just share the juicy details that I know that she will love and eat up, and instead share the things that I'm struggling with and the things about my novel that I don't like, to see how we can work together and brainstorm together, as we often do, to find any idea that might strengthen or change things in such a way to solve the problems that I may have with my novel, rather than just share the exciting bits. I think it's invaluable to have a friend. Like, get yourself a Jenn, truly, truly, because one of the most fun parts of the process, for me at least, has been using somebody as a sounding board, but also shooting out ideas at each other, making each other laugh, making each other gasp, jaw-dropping moments or pieces of dialogue that we're just like, oh my gosh, yes, that needs to be used. I think that that's such an incredible part of the process that I would hope to encourage for everybody. But it's up to you. Maybe you want us to be your sounding board, you can leave us a comment below for sure, but it's a little bit more nerve-wracking when it's social media versus like just in your house with your friend. But in any case, highly recommend. And we're moving right along to, I'm gonna butcher her name for some reason. I've watched her for so long, but Anna New. I'll put it on the screen. A lesson that I'm taking from Anna New, Anna, is to just romanticize the process. If we're being honest, Anna's videos are pretty cinematic on their own. Cinematic. So are Brielle and Christy's. Actually, I really, really love their video style. The visuals that they use, very beautiful. But I think what Anna is the champion of is just romanticizing the process and just the very act of storytelling. It is a solo sport. Pretty lonely sport. So her documentary on how she wrote a novel is just like a love letter to the process. And it's not necessarily about highlighting the fact that she wrote a novel in 4 months. It's more the fact that she had an accomplishment, but the storytelling of creating that accomplishment was what really resonated with me and what really was so beautiful for me about that documentary. And I really just think that that's the beauty of Authortube. Like, you get to share your experience and your love for your hobby, or in some of the Authortubers cases, is their jobs. But to me, it makes the hobby of writing, though a lonely sport, as an experience in itself. Takes away the massive focus on the final product and having something at the end of the process, and instead makes it about the process itself, which I think is a really, really beautiful message and a really beautiful lesson and a beautiful reminder to hold with us as we're writing, is that even when we're frustrated or these moments that we may have, it's just so beautiful to get to be diving into our minds and pulling out our creative skills and developing and honing those skills. Such a beautiful cerebral experience, and I think that that's what I want to take with me. In any case, the lesson here, just to romanticize the process of writing, and I want to take a lot of care in how I share my process on this channel. And I think being an author just sounds romantic to me, if I'm being honest. And I can lean into that on this channel of how really beautiful and joyful that is. And finally, a personal favorite, Jenn from JennSquarred, the other half of this hobby author YouTube channel. I have to end it with my beautiful partner because she recently came out with a vlog where during one of her coffee chats, this was at the cottage, she just expresses the acceptance of frustration when inspiration doesn't follow a linear path. And just by acknowledging that frustration, we're able to kind of let go and move forward towards just the enjoyment of creativity. I don't want to say that the frustration doesn't exist. That's not her message. But having writing as a hobby is a pretty crazy ride. As sterile as it may sound, it is very romantic and crazy. And there are a lot of ups and downs, and inspiration, when it is in its strongest form, is very intense and consuming. And when it doesn't follow the path that you want, for example, in Jenn's case, she was struggling with the fact that she was working on Project Midnight, but was getting a lot of inspiration for an unnamed project of hers that is just barreling forward. There's that frustration, but inspiration is almost our muse. It's our driving force as writers. And acknowledging that you're here for the ride and that it can be frustrating when it's not linear, I think is a really, really great message of just like accept it and enjoy it and take it for all it's got, which also leads to Lynn's message of like you can pick up any project that you've been working on and you can come back to it. So it doesn't matter necessarily, but the best thing that we can do is give the inspiration the attention that it deserves, just to set the foundations and make whatever strides it has intended for you in whatever project you're inspired to write. Something that we preach on JennSquarred is that inspiration really is everywhere. And I think that our expectations shape our reality. So if we expect to find inspiration somewhere, then we will, but we also need to be open to all forms of inspiration and just allow it to flow through us. So yeah, I think just remembering that this is my hobby. We're riding the waves of inspiration. There are no real deadlines. This is not my job. Creative writing is such a joy and such a privilege to engage with as a hobby, so I'm going to hold that message from Jenn close to my heart. In any case, that video comes packaged with a lot of other messages from Jenn, and I think it gives us a great window into what her process might look like, which is just a joy to watch, in my opinion. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you have any lessons to share from your personal experience as a writer or a hobby author, such as myself, please let me know in the comments. Or if you came across, a candid message like these ones listed in this video, let me know in the comments. Always looking to learn and improve, because if we're not growing, what's the point? What's the point, really, though?